Hey, Doug Walker here, giving my thoughts on Scoob. This is, I think, the second really big, not just anime movie, but I think really big movie to be released on video on demand. And so again, I think a lot of eyes are kind of on it to see how well it does. And I'm just giving my initial thoughts before I go into the movie. I should say real quick, just what my thoughts on Scooby Doo as a property is, honestly, because that's really what it is now. It's been around for so long. The original cartoons, I like more as a kid, but like there's something enjoyable about the formula and the characters, even though it's clearly meant, you know, for younger kids and stuff. But I like that something for little kids has kind of this dark, creepy, haunted house, ghost ghouls, you know, vibe to it. I mean, I like that stuff when I was a kid. I like it now. But the times I like Scooby-Doo the most is when it had kind of like a cynical edge to it. Like it was satirical of itself and kind of the formula. And Scooby-Doo does that a lot, and I want to say it kind of started with a pup named Scooby-Doo, like they hinted, you know, they tapped into that a little bit, and then with those really bad live-action movies that came out, like they tried to tap into it, but I don't know, they just made it too kid-friendly or something, I don't know, they dumbed it down, but there's a lot of variations that really have fun with it. There's some comics that have fun with it, there's some specials that have fun with it, so now we have this, I guess you can call it a reboot, although like a lot of them, they try to recreate a lot of the familiar Scooby-Doo scenarios and scenes, like the whole opening credits is pretty much a recreation of like Scooby-Doo Where Are You?, which is still cool to see, and the inner nostalgia in me really does love that stuff. And there's tons of in-jokes if you know Hanna-Barbera or Scooby-Doo or anything like that. And I'm not like a diehard fan, but I still recognize, like, if you look in the background, that's a nice thing about being on demand. You can pause and see so many. Oh, I can't remember who the Hex Girl was. Her Hex Girls were. Oh, I know Jabberjaw. Oh, there's a store like named after Pebbles or something like that. So all these great Hanna-Barbera jokes. But the movie as a whole, in general, I really like. I was actually kind of really looking forward to this movie because it had kind of a Storks vibe. The movie Storks, that was another Warner Brothers animated film that I think is really, really underrated. It's super funny. It's not that good, but the writing is really has that satirical, kind of cynical edge to it. The execution of it, for the most part, delivers. The few times where it doesn't quite hit is when, like, for example, there's a scene where they have to distract this giant dog with, like, a Scooby snack, and Daphne says, "Oh, I always have an extra," and she gets it out, and she's about to throw it, and Scooby eats it, and she turns around, and he's like, "Sorry," you know, and that's a cute joke, and then she tries it, she's like, "Haha, thankfully I have a spare," she's about to throw it, gets eaten again, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm weak," and it's funny, him saying that with that voice is funny, but on Daphne's face, she has a little bit of a smile, like, "Oh, Scoob," and I'm thinking, like, nah, that should be meaner. She should be pissed off. So it's sometimes is missing a little bit of that edge, but like 8 out of 10 times it's not. Like it does have kind of this cynical side that's very welcomed, I think, in a movie like this. And honestly, kind of in the Scooby-Doo universe, this is really what I feel the live-action Scooby-Doo movies were trying to do. At least they were written to be this way. And then they got written down to be, or directed down or edited, whatever, to be really dumbed down. I mean, not that Scooby-Doo is the most intellectual of properties or anything, but clearly there was more of a funny side to that was just totally sucked out of it. And I feel like all that comedy was put in here, because it's legit pretty funny, and any of the criticisms I have of it are really pretty minor. The stuff that really works, I really like the connection between mainly Scooby and Shaggy. The other three, they're kind of pushed to the side, and it does feel like that sometimes, you know, like, oh, we're dealing with these three now, but they still get a fair amount of laughs. And there's definitely some jokes that don't work. There's a really weird running joke about Fred being obsessed with the van, like the Mystery Machine, which I was like, I don't remember that being a thing, but so there's some misses there, but the voice acting is mostly pretty good. There is I know that I guess there was some controversy about the voice actors being switched out. You know, Frank Welker is still Scooby, But a lot of the other original voice actors who usually do the voices were taken out. And on the one hand, it is a shame. I mean, if they're still able to do it, I say why not. But the cast they got are good. I mean, they're all pretty funny. Will Forte as Shaggy, I mean, like, 90% of the time, if you told me this wasn't the original Do, Matthew Lillard, I think, is the other guy, the guy doing the movies, and I think he's always done it, like, since then. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on that, but I wouldn't be able to tell. There's only one or two times, particularly during the dramatic moments, where I'm like, well, okay, well, that's somebody different, but that's pretty good. Zac Efron, like, as Fred, I mean, you could kind of put anyone there. Him and Daphne are probably the least developed out of the main cast, but they're not bad. They still get some laughs, but, you know, they're probably just the ones where it's like, anytime a joke comes from them, it's like, well, okay, that was a good try, you know, that kind of thing. But there's very few jokes where I'm like, oh, that was awful. Oh, man, I can't believe they did that. And another thing I like about it, it earns its PG rating. There are some jokes in here. I was like, I can't believe they got away with that. Like, that's it. But again, it's PG, so, you know, you understand. But the humor in it is very, very zany, very slapstick. There's a lot of wordplay. It has kind of an original Simpsons writing style to it, which I really, really like. The stuff that, I guess the stuff that doesn't work, it has kind of a weak third act, weirdly, because you're building up this kind of cool thing. There's going to be this big monster at the end, and we're going to see this, you know, supernatural world that appears. And, you know, Scooby Doo's usually great at this kind of stuff. It was just kind of, it wasn't awful, it was just very kind of meandering and meh, you know. I mean, there weren't many laughs in it. It just sort of seems like, okay, well, now this character comes through with their arc. This character comes through with their arc. You know, I could have used a few more good jokes with it. And it also gets weirdly complicated. Like, there's a whole thing with, again, I won't get into spoilers, but there's the whole thing with Scooby and Shaggy about their friendship and how it's supposed to, you know, help everything come together, but then something has to be broken apart too. And it's just super complicated. And you know, it's just so they could get the scene that follows immediately after, which is supposed to be like the tearjerker scene. But there's still several times in this movie where I laughed really hard. And, you know, there's a couple where you roll your eyes and say, okay, you know, Scooby Doo, you know, like, they're just going to do a, you know, whatever a timely joke is. But that's also kind of the fun of Scooby Doo too. It is just always of the time. You know, it's, I mean, you look at the original Scooby Doo, I mean, just so clearly of the time, and they have fun with that. They have fun with here, and they add some current elements that will be dated probably very quickly. But they kind of mock that too when they're talking about Shaggy. It's like, yeah, and this guy that kept saying like before every sentence, it was like a middle-aged man imitating what he thinks a young hippie sounds like. I mean, that's really funny. You know, it's those kind of in-jokes that I think kids might laugh at, but adults are like, I know what you're doing. That's great. And the villain is pretty funny. Like I said, I think the majority of the laughs come from whenever it's very cynical, but the heartfelt moments are good enough. Like I said, particularly the friendship between Scooby and Shaggy is very nice. I mean, you've seen the trailers where they meet and they're little kids and stuff, and that's super cute. And that does follow through. I mean, you do like the friendship with them. So, in my opinion, I think, I mean, it wasn't now. It's like $20 to rent and $25 to buy, I think. I mean, I don't regret paying that money. I think I had a really good time, and honestly, I mean, if you really want to, it's like, oh, $20 for a movie. It's like, well, you drive to the movie theater, you get some snacks. How many people are you bringing to the theater? Are you seeing it on IMAX and 3D? This was clearly meant to be a 3D movie, by the way. There are lots of perfectly framed shots where people are like, hey, give me your hand. Like, it never goes out of frame or anything like that. Or when a ship is flying, it's all the way in the frame. Like, it never goes out or anything like that. So that's kind of a shame. Because it's not quite Jaws 3D gimmicky, but you can tell, like, they hold on a shot of someone holding out a hand just a little little too long, where it's like, okay, that if this was in 3D, that would look very cool. But yeah, I think when you factor in everything else with seeing a movie, I mean, obviously the big thing missing is seeing it on the big screen, seeing it with a crowd. I mean, you're never gonna replace that. But again, it's something where it's like, I enjoyed it. I think if you see the trailer and you're like, dude, I'm not getting into this, you're not gonna like it. If you're not a Scooby-Doo fan by any means, it's probably not gonna win you over. You might get a few laughs, but you're not gonna get that into it. It's not something that's hugely story-based. I mean, it's not like a Coco or anything like that, or Beauty and the Beast. I mean, clearly. But I think most people going in know what they're gonna get. And especially if you're a Scooby-Doo fan and a Hanna-Barbera fan, which I always have a soft spot for them. There's a lot of great in-jokes. I almost wonder if they're hinting at like a Hanna-Barbera universe. I'd actually totally be on board with that, because they're one of the first, like, universes, like, you know, I mean, you see all their cartoon characters and all the crossovers they have, so I'd totally be down for that. But especially if it's this crew, if it's this kind of writing and this kind of animation. So it's not perfect. Like I said, I don't think it's Stork's good, but I think it is very funny. I think it has its heartfelt moments. It's very colorful. I think kids will really like the slapstick. I think adults will really like a lot of the innuendos, and there's a lot of innuendos in this movie. And again, all the little in-jokes. So I think it's good. I think it's a pretty solid movie. I think it's a good family film. One or two jokes you might want to, you know, explain to the kids. But yeah, I think it's actually, I had a really good time. Like I said, I think this is really what the live-action Scooby-Doo movie should have been. And maybe we're trying to be until something happened in the process. So I had a fun time. Let me know what you think. If you're a Scooby-Doo fan especially, did you really like this, or did you feel it betrayed something, or really went against what Scooby-Doo was all about? I don't know. Because there's obviously a die-hard fan base for it to be going this long. I mean, God, there's so many Scooby-Doo movies, games and shows and properties and all that stuff. So let me know what you think of this movie if you've seen it. I want to know, because I haven't looked up reviews or seen what other people think of it. So I want to know, is this going over well, or is it not hitting, or do people just not enjoy it, or are the awkward moments just too awkward? So yeah, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Take care.